It's a wild world out there, but some worlds are even wilder. Hi, my name is Tyler Hapney, and you're listening to Dungeons and Dystopias. Thank you for listening. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Dungeons and Dystopias. I'm your game master and host, Tyler Hapney. I have run hundreds of games of Dungeons and Dragons and Cyberpunk Red, and this podcast is a way for me to reconcile my thoughts on both of those systems. So today, we are going to be talking a bit more about Cyberpunk Red. I know last week I mentioned that there was a chance we might, see some DLC or something. We kind of have. From Cyberpunk, from Artel Saurian specifically, we've seen what looks to be a lot of indications of what's coming next. And that would be a going solo DLC experience. And this is something that is made so that people can play Cyberpunk Red on their own. It's not going to be the topic of the show, but I do want to cover that is what's going to be coming out, I think, next at some point. And of course, we will be covering it at that point. But for now, I would definitely check it out. It seems really cool. It reminds me a lot of some of the other solo DM experiences I've done. I saw a really good guide on how to solo DM Fallout 2D20, for instance. But anyways, the topic of today's show is going to continue our series on all the various different roles and abilities within Cyberpunk Red. And today's role that we're going to be discussing is the Nomad, the people who drive cars. They make just about anything that goes go. These people are really honestly going to be your most consistent getaway drivers, race car drivers, anything that has to do with getting behind the wheel of something and being able to keep it on the road. Your Nomad is going to exceed anyone else in that capacity far and away. Just on virtue of them being a Nomad alone. Their role ability inherently makes them better at that than everyone else, which we will of course be getting into the role ability here. But talking a bit more about the flavor of Nomad, it's like, imagine if your Edge Runner group is a group of high school students that don't have enough money to afford a car and their parents won't get them one or whatever. You know, they live in the city, everything's walkable, there's no real reason to have one. Well, this is the friend with the car. This is the friend where, hey, distances aren't so bad anymore. You can you can maybe go over another city or go out into the Badlands and not worry about being stranded and losing water and food and dying, which, you know, is a kind of a real thing in Cyberpunk, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, really, honestly, these people have the capacity to kind of get their party going wherever they need to go. And they can do that with quite a lot of customization and style. You can really have a tank of a vehicle taking your friends into whatever edge running mission they have coming up. So, what is a Nomad thematically? I mean, well, I guess in lore. So Nomads are essentially this sort of concept. A lot of Nomad clans form this way, but they're basically a biker gang of sorts that travel together as a pack. They're sort of like modern day, like Mongolians and all that other stuff. Really interesting kind of, nomadic culture. So obviously that means there's a lot of getting up and moving around. They're extremely important to the lore of Cyberpunk. If you've played Cyberpunk 2077, you can start as a Nomad. Nomads there's a solid through line through the entirety of the Cyberpunk narrative about the importance of Nomads and kind of, what they faced. A lot of Nomads wound up in that situation because they were farmers or owned some land, rural land that a corporation wanted. And that corporation was able to get their land through underhanded means, maybe sometimes flat out illegal means. And that's just kind of left them stranded. So they all kind of band together and form these packs, and that's sort of how they come together. Very nice. The most, I'd say, obviously the most prominent Nomad clan, and the one that's in 2077, the one that is the first Nomad clan would be the Aldecaldo clan. And that's probably going to be our monster of the week, so we'll come back to them. But for now, let's kind of get a little bit into what makes Nomads special. Obviously, I mentioned they get a car. Well, there's a little bit more to it than that. So, for one, at rank 1, you get a car, a free car, bike. I think you can even get a helicopter or something. Maybe that's a little later. I'm not sure. But you can basically get some vehicle of all the different types, like a boat, or if you want it, for varying reasons. And each time your role rank goes up, you get to either add a modification to that vehicle, or you can add another one to your pool, maybe. Almost positive they want you to swap it out. It's mostly going to be used for upgrades on your vehicle to make it personal. So rank 1, you get the car, or let's just say you're getting a car for hypothetical purposes, or a bike or whatever. Rank 2, you can now get an upgrade on it. Probably something like a heavier chassis, which increases the health of your car. Or you can get like a smuggling compartment. You can get nitrous oxide. You can get onboard machine guns. Later on, you can get an onboard rocket launcher. The sky is kind of the limit when it comes to vehicle upgrades, and these are just the ones that are obviously like listed out for you. In the actual game itself. This is, of course, Cyberpunk Red, where the tech role exists. So, really, honestly, if there's another vehicle upgrade you can think of that they don't have, which, I mean, they do have a lot, but if there's another one you can think of that they don't have, guess what? You can probably make it. It'll probably be difficult, I imagine, depending on what the actual modification does, but it might just be worth it. So that's really, honestly, I mean, just having that alone up to rank 10, roll rank 10, you can really soup up a car. And obviously at higher roll ranks, you might even be able to have, like, your Nomad family might trust you now with multiple vehicles. So you can have, one bike that's, got nitrous and maybe bulletproof windows or whatever. And then a car that's maybe a bit more durable for like picking things up. It's not as fast. And then maybe, I don't know, have a boat with like an onboard machine gun or something on it for naval missions. And, that's your rank 10 Nomad. I don't know. I think it's a very interesting kind of sort of way you can build that. And they did sort of build more into that vehicle aspect of it when they came out with Black Chrome, because Black Chrome added the Nomad access system and a whole bunch of new vehicles that had a bunch of upgrades already attached. So effectively, what the Nomad access system is basically, if you have, but depending on your role rank, each vehicle has a certain Nomad access level. This Nomad access level means once you reach that role rank, you can just withdraw that vehicle from the Nomad pool. You don't have to build the vehicles rank by rank. You can just pull them out with all their upgrades already attached. And this already inherently makes the Nomads way stronger, because this means theoretically at rank 4, I could pull out, maybe a Nomad access rank 3 vehicle. And then I still have the vehicle I got from rank 1. I get, I don't know, a boat. Rank 2, upgrade the boat. Rank 3, get your Nomad Access 3 vehicle. Now you have 2 upgraded vehicles, and then at Nomad rank 4, I can have a third upgrade on my boat. Or a second upgrade on my boat, excuse me. But you get the idea. I mean, it's some powerful stuff. Like, Nomad Access kind of changes the game, because now you're not taking vehicles out one by one and then sort of piecing them together like a puzzle piece. You can just take out these pre-approved vehicles that have these sort of already attached upgrades that aren't as custom, but you can still, I mean, after you get them, I'm pretty sure attach stuff onto them. But once starting out, it's already upgraded. It's pretty great. I could go over, I might even at some point in the future go over just an entire episode about the vehicles of Cyberpunk because there's so many good ones. And we're already, I mean, partway through this episode, and I really want to focus on Nomads today. But I think maybe for our next Cyberpunk episode, maybe if something doesn't come out by then, we might look at the actual vehicles of Cyberpunk because some of them do offer quite a bit of interesting gameplay. Um, so let's circle back to the Nomad roll ability because we're not done. Because this is the gift that keeps on giving. Your Nomad roll rank also comes with passive buffs to your repair skills, your driving skills, your piloting skills, all that stuff. And well, obviously that can really help. With a Nomad, you can start with something like 18 in driving, maybe even like something higher if you have some synth coke. But you get the idea. I mean, a Nomad really is statistically they're going to be way over the skill cap of any other player because they have 10 extra points that they can be dispersing into whatever ability they want to, on driving, basically. And that really caps out at a very high number. So at the end of the day, you're not really going to be outdriving a skilled Nomad, not by a long shot. At least not without a ton of luck. So, I mean, honestly, man, Nomad is just such a cool role. I've had some really interesting Nomads show up in my games before. I've had players. One player did go for the boat onboard machine gun, armored chassis kind of approach, and that's actually worked out really well and has led to some really interesting missions. We had one in the Night City Reservoir where they were on their boat and just going around and basically shooting Biotechnica drones and all that stuff. It was super, super fun and entertaining. And there was people in the water and they had to defend the boat. And, we had somebody who was a shark biosculpt. So they were swimming around in the water and, and tearing people up. It's a good time. But I've also had Nomads who are pilots. Dedicated pilots. Pilot Nomads are really fun because, I mean, honestly, think about it. A helicopter, like you can have an actual gunship if you build your roll up enough, and you can become a pilot with, onboard rocket launchers and, Gatling guns and stuff attached to your the sides of your helicopter. You can come in and rain hell upon your enemies, and all it takes is just leveling your roll ability. For everyone else, that's so much money. But for a Nomad, because you have that Nomad access and presuming you're in the Aldecaldos or another Nomad clan that has resources, you'll at least have access to a lot of this type of stuff. And I mean, I think that personally makes Cyberpunk Red just such a special system. Because you're not in D&D, you're never going to be, firing rockets upon your enemies from well, I mean, I guess you could. I feel like at a certain point, there's a better system for it, but you could rain rockets down upon your enemies from the deck of a helicopter, I guess, in D&D. But I think it feels a little better in Cyberpunk, in my opinion. But yeah, some of the combinations I've seen from players has been interesting. And I find that the actual customization of the vehicle itself does give a lot of credence to allowing players to kind of build their character personality around their vehicles. Like we've had Nomads who live in their cars. That's one of the upgrades you can get. You can completely forego the ability, like the necessary sort of having an apartment and instead just live in your car, and your rent is so much lower because you only need to pay for your lifestyle, which is crazy. But at the same time, your car is where you live, and your game master would be extremely foolish not to take advantage of that because you're in Night City, a place where carjackings and people breaking into cars is extremely common. So, it's important to remind your player who might be living in their car that, hey, maybe that security upgrade wouldn't be a bad idea either. And even then, I don't know if they can get the security upgrade right away. I think they have to wait a certain role rank until they can get that upgrade. So there might be some tension at the beginning there of your Nomad player who lives in their car trying to find a good place to park and sleep at night in Night City of all places, which is easier said than done. We've had players just go out into the middle of the desert and live out there because they could not find anywhere safe in the city. We've had players like stake out a spot in the city and defend that, like the whole spot, rather than just their house with like turrets and stuff like that. And it's been really interesting to see how players kind of adapt to the situations they create for themselves with the upgrades that they give onto their vehicles. And of course, I just gotta say, onboard machine gun, onboard rocket launcher, just so cool. Man, I love it. I love it, love it, love it, love it. All right, let's talk about the Aldecaldos. These guys are the biggest, baddest, I don't know about baddest, but I don't know where biggest either, but they're the first Nomad gang. And that speaks for something. These guys are, extremely important. They have a long and sordid history that involves some involvement with Johnny Silverhand. Santiago is, I sort of where a lot of people kind of hook on to Aldecaldo lore. There's a lot before that about Juan Aldecaldo and sort of how the Nomad family started. But let's talk a bit about Santiago. We meet him in 2077 in flashbacks. I do not believe we ever meet him in the current day. I'm pretty sure we don't. But either way, Santiago is, he's kind of the big guy that kind of, a lot of people recognize him as the leader of the Aldecaldos of his day, the 2020s. And he was also romantically involved with Rogue, who we've talked about before on this wonderful podcast during this Monsters of the Week segment. And it is supposed that he and Rogue got together and had a baby and had Trace, who is a media as of the time of the Red. So obviously, a whole lot of sort of through lines kind of going on there when it comes to Santiago and the Aldecaldos, and they're already directly tied to one of the main characters, I'd say, of Cyberpunk being Rogue. So through the 2020s, it's basic just nomad business, sticking it to the corpse, being free, living your life, and just kind of being awesome. Well, eventually, the Night City event happens, and things aren't, going so great for generally anybody in the region of Night City. So, over the years, reconstruction becomes a huge deal. Cleaning up, all that stuff. Well, who do you think they hire to do all the construction and to import all the supplies and all that other stuff? That's right. They turn around and they ask the Aldecaldos to do it. They're a huge nomad clan right now as of 2045. And it's not just the Aldecaldos doing it. Don't get me wrong. It's just the fact that the Aldecaldos have a camp directly in the city connected to Haywood that gives a bit of credence that they may be sort of one of the more important aspects of the actual operation going on within the recovery and reestablishment of Night City. So yes, during the time of the Red, as this is a Cyberpunk Red podcast, I should probably talk a bit about the context of the time of the Red. Nomads are actually highly respected within Night City culture because a lot of people understand their necessity, so to speak, when it comes to the way they're rebuilding the city and the way that they're putting, they're the ones that are able to get everybody their things. Right now, the supply chain in the entire world during the time of the Red is really messed up. Like, there isn't really country to country trade right now. There are rogue AIs planting sea mines all over the ocean. So that's, it's just inherently difficult. Well, the only people who are transporting things across country regularly and are dealing with this kind of stuff regularly are nomads. They're the ones who are able to chart the sea charts and know the way around the mines. So right now, in this global crisis during the time of the Red, the only people keeping the world alive are the nomads. And there's a lot that you can play into that when it comes to playing a nomad, and especially playing an Aldecaldo, because that is the role that the Aldecaldos are primarily playing right now. And that is in the sort of helping of sort of rebuilding of Night City, while of course at the same time doing a bit of edge running on the side because it's Night City, and what can you do? It's nomads and edge runners that are making this city run right now, and the time of the Red needs them more than anything. That's one thing I love about Cyberpunk Red, is that it has this inherently more sort of Wild West feel to it than Cyberpunk 2020 and Cyberpunk 2077. There's this feeling that the time of the Red is the time of the edge runners. This is when everything is sort of like everyone's sort of looking at the edge runners to get things done. Corporations don't have as much power. Nomads have a lot more power than they usually do, which I don't know. It's an interesting dynamic that I don't see a lot of people exploring online, so I thought I'd talk a little bit about nomads and why I love them so gosh dang much. That'll be it for us this week. Please come back next week where we talk a little bit more about Dungeons & Dragons. I'll figure out something to talk about, but I have a feeling we might be talking a bit more about some classes, or maybe I'll dig into my mind and we'll talk about Spelljammer a bit. Who knows? All of it's very interesting, and I'd really like to talk about the Rocket Brawl sometime because that place is crazy. Anyways, that'll be it. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next week. This has been Dungeons and Dystopias. Thank you for listening.